So today, on the eves of the 2022 CONCACAF Champions League Final first leg match between the Seattle Sounders versus Pumas, I am not only going to look at how the Sounders were able to become the 5th MLS team to reach CCL Final and hope to become the first ever MLS team to win the whole competition. I'm also going to look at the previous two teams that came oh so close of becoming that first MLS team to win the CONCACAF Champions League but fail on the final hurdle and how their run to CCL Final is, because if I was just going to do the Seattle Sounders and talk about their CCL run in 2022, I think this video will be a little bit too short. Plus, I want to also kind of look back at the two other teams that made it to this stage and how I think you could safely say that compared to the Sounders CCL Final run, compared to how LAFC and Toronto FC made it to this stage, some might say that the Sounders probably got a relatively favorable draw, and that I know the Sounders had to at least play one Liga MX team, but it's nothing compared to what we saw with LAFC in 2020 and also from what TFC did in 2018. Now, I also specifically choose these two other teams and not also go all the way back to when Montreal made that CCL final run, and then RSL, of course, did the same thing and becoming the first MLS team to ever do so, because I really didn't get into the CONCACAF Champions League until 2018, which coincidentally, that was the year when TFC almost made history of winning the competition for the very first time and also become the first team to ever win the treble, because they did win MLS Cup and also win the Canadian Championship coming into this tournament. Now, in 2018 and in the first game that they play in the round of 16, they were actually playing against the Colorado Rapids. And when you talk about the run that that TFC had in the CCL run, a lot of people forgot that they played against the Rapids in the round of 16, and that that was kind of an all MLS affair. That anytime when I talk about all MLS affair, it's definitely very exciting to see, but it's just kind of one of those all MLS kind of affair in CCL where everybody knew that TFC was going to win, and that of course is the case where they were able to win 2-0 on the road in the first leg. Although in the second leg they didn't really do much, and they didn't have to, because they feel like they were comfortable with the 2-0 result, and they got a 0-0 draw at home in that one and win 2-0 in the aggregate score. Now the very next game, they no doubt had probably the most daunting task to move on into the next round, and I know that this TFC team was a very good team. I mean, guys like Javinko, Altidore, Bradley, that big main core from this TFC team was definitely coming into this tournament as considered to, I wouldn't say favorites coming into it, but certainly probably the best MLS team to ever assemble to maybe even go all the way into CCL Final. Though, one of those teams that also looked like could make it all the way was Tigres. I mean, this Tigres team, we know how they're a team that has been a menace in terms of the CONCACAF Champions League competition, and that they've been knocking on the door a couple of times of finally winning it, and that many people thought that this might be a little bit too tall of a task for TFC to do so. Though I will say that it was kind of a clash between the Titans, because you probably have the best team in MLS facing against probably the best team in Liga MX in this one, and in this case it was the best team in MLS that were able to prevail. TFC was able to win 2-1 in their first leg and at home against Tigres, and then in the second leg, although TFC did lost that one, it didn't really get very dicey until the very end, because TFC, they had like a 2-goal aggregate or a 3-goal aggregate advantage heading into the last 10 minutes of this game. But then Tigres decided to make this thing very interesting by scoring 2 goals to tie the aggregate score, and that TFC was literally, by the time they were heading into stoppage time, they were only leading by away goal. And by the way, I also remember that was the game when Tigres fans were celebrating like crazy after that second goal, or that third goal that they score to lead this game. And I don't think a lot of those Tigres fans realize that, yeah, in the CONCACAF Champions League, there is a away goal rule, and that they're definitely not winning that away goal rule with TFC. Just have a little bit more away goals compared to what Tigres, of course, have with the one away goal that they had in the first leg, and therefore that's why TFC was able to move on despite the fact that the aggregate score was tied at 4 apiece. But there was no doubt that, that last couple of minutes in stoppage time must be one of the longest minutes if you're a TFC fan had to suffer, because it got really dicey, and that it seems like it was going to be more CCL free space, and classic CCL free space with an MLS team. Looked like they were on verge of doing something incredible, and only it was completely full because they decided to implode against a Liga MX team down in Mexico. Now, in the semifinal, they played against Club America, and once again, they won their home leg, but this time winning 3-1 in their home leg. And then when they gone down to Mexico and going down to the Azteca, where, coming into that game, a lot of people were thinking that, yeah, the job is not done. I mean, we know how much it is to really get a resort down at the Azteca, and TFC did exactly that. In fact, they were pretty much controlling most part of the game and able to win the aggregate score by 4-2 against Club America. And then they of course go into the final to face another Mexican giant in Chivas. But a lot of people thought that, with how Chivas has made it to the final, it's been kind of a bit of a fluke. And mind you, this was also a Mateus Almeida led Chivas team that made it to the CCL final, and that everybody were thinking that, TFC was heavy favorites in this one. They should have no problem against Chivas in the CCL final. Well, it turns out that was not the case, because they lost the first leg 2-1, and I think that's the only time that they actually lost at home in the first leg. Now, in the second leg, they did show some resilience and able to win 2-1 in that one, and in some way, you can definitely see that, they were determined to try to get those 2 goals, because they were actually down 1-0 in that CCL final second leg, though, that goal really didn't mean much, because TFC would still need 2 goals to, of course, win, or 2 goals to, of course, send this one to a PK shootout, which they did exactly that. But unfortunately, Chivas, of course, won in the penalty kick shootout, as it is the case, because, anytime when an MLS team face against a Liga MX team in a PK shootout, more time than not, that Liga MX team is going to win the PK shootout. But this was also a game where TFC probably would have won the second leg 3-1, and that, that guy called Marky Delgado, I mean, that is probably a player that, I know he's no longer with TFC and he's now with the Galaxy, but that is definitely a name that will not be living in the nightmares of TFC fans, because, that was a game I still remember him missing such a sitter, and almost kind of a Wando-esque kind of sitter, where it could have easily give TFC the 3rd goal and probably even won the game for TFC, because Chivas would need like 2 goals to, of course, able to overcome the deficit, and there was only like 3 minutes left when Delgado basically blasted that one high from close range. So we look at the 4th team that attempt to try to becoming the first MLS team to win CCL, of them making the CCL final, and that, of course, is LAFC. Now, what's interesting about this year, obviously, is the pandemic, and how, the CONCACAF Champions League had that very long break before they finally get the remaining games going with the way that a lot of those games, well, not just a lot of those games, but every remaining game that is between the quarterfinal, semifinal, and also in the final take place at Exploria Stadium in Orlando. Now, this was also a year where many people thought that this could be a chance for a MLS team to win CCL, because these team doesn't even have to go down to Mexico anymore. I mean, they get to play at home, albeit it is in an empty stadium, but, at least in a way where many people thought that it's better to play in an empty stadium, in an empty MLS stadium, compared to if you have to go down to Mexico to play in front of a hostile crowd. Now, before the pandemic, of course, happened in the round of 16, LAFC was playing against Club Leon, and their CCL hope looked like it was over before we even get into the second leg. I mean, they took a 2-0 loss on the road against Club Leon, and then against all odds in the second leg, they won 3-0 in that one, and able to overcome that 2-0 deficit. And this is why I always use that game as an example of the fact that even when MLS team do not get the result that they had, and they might have lose like 2-0 or even 1-0 on the road, there's still hope, because we've seen before where MLS team, when they do get to play at home in front of their fans, there's always chance that they can, of course, overcome that deficit, and that is exactly what LAFC did in that one. But we move on to the quarterfinal, and this is when, that didn't happen until December, and pretty much all the remaining game was just one-legged affair game. And in the game against Cruz Azul, LAFC was able to win 2-1 against Cruz Azul, but that was a game where LAFC were down early in that one, and it looked like that was pretty much it for MLS team hope to reach to the CCL final, but LAFC with 2 quick goals from Carlos Vela able to win that one 2-1 against Cruz Azul. And then in the semifinal against Club America, that will always be the game where Miguel Herrera basically decided to go full Miguel Herrera in this game and just kind of implode in this one. Like, he of course got himself set off too because of some of the bad refereeing decision that he did not agree on. And also it was a game where it kind of also created a bit of a meme when we saw Miguel Herrera basically communicating with the team with the walkie-talkie, which that was also a game I talked about how, I don't know if CONCACAF will need to fine him or even suspend him, because I'm pretty sure you cannot communicate with your team with a walkie-talkie, even if you're basically sent in the stands. Now, eventually CONCACAF did fine him and did suspend him because of that, but that was just such a public stunt, and it just kind of symbolized the character of Puyo in that game. But nevertheless, LAFC were able to win that one. They were able to win 3-1 against Club America to move on to the final, where they play against Tigres. Now, the Tigres now, compared to the Tigres that TFC faced, was nothing the same. I mean, the Tigres that TFC faced in 2018 was much stronger than the one that they faced in 2020. In fact, the Tigres that LAFC faced in that year in the CCL Final was the team that is in 9th place in Liga MX. So they were not doing very well in their league, and many people thought, okay, this is kind of like the Chivas situation where an MLS team is favored to win the competition, and LAFC can definitely do so. And it looked like it was the case when they went up 1-0 in that game, and then they gave up 2 goals in quick succession. One of them was scored by Andre Pierre, which we knew that he was gonna get on the score sheet in this one. And in the end, Tigres was able to win 2-1 in that one, and pretty much more CCL free space for MLS team, and still the wait continue in terms of seeing the first ever MLS team to win the competition. But that wait could maybe finally end in terms of now talk about this year and how the Seattle Sounders were able to make it to CCL. Now, I will say that for the Sounders, just like LAFC and Toronto FC, a lot of people picked that this was the team that can make the deep run. And so many times when we talk about that, that we have one specific team that is favored to make it all the way, they sometimes do stumble to a surprising result, or it does not live up to expectation. But at least for the Sounders, they did exactly that. But like I said, when you look at some of the opponents that they face, it's definitely not as hard as what we saw what LAFC and TFC did back in 2018. I mean, their first opponent was against Montego down in Honduras, and even though they did struggle in that first leg, getting a 0-0 draw, that actually turns out to be a good result considering Montego could have scored a goal in that one in the opening 15 minutes of that game, because I think they hit the post, and there was a bad miss in that one, and it seems like the Sounders was just completely not prepared for that game. Thankfully, they found their A game in the second leg and completely destroyed Montego and winning 5-0 in that one, and that of course was the aggregate score. Now in the next one, they did have to face against Club Leon, and again, if you're going to get to the CCL Final, you need to face against a Liga MX opponent. And Club Leon was a team that, they were still a decent team, but it's also a team that, the Sounders did lose in the League Cup final, and that the Sounders want some revenge because of it. And they did exactly that, because in the first leg, they were able to win 3-0 at home. And unlike the New England Revolution in the second leg, they were able to take care of business pretty comfortably. I mean, the 1-1 draw doesn't actually resemble the fact that the Sounders were the better team in that second leg against Club Leon, and have they not give up a late goal in that one, they would also got a historic win where they become one of only few MLS team to go down to Mexico and get a result against a Liga MX team, and also their aggregate score was 4-1. Now in the semifinal, they had an all MLS semifinal against NYCFC. In the first leg, they were able to win 3-1 in that one. And then in the second leg, despite the fact that NYCFC put immense pressure against the Sounders, especially in the second half, they were able to hold on to a 1-1 draw and able to have the aggregate score of 4-2. And when you look at pretty much all the aggregate score that the Sounders has had throughout these two-legged affair in this year's CCL, it has not been close whatsoever. I mean, probably the closest was against NYCFC, but even then, it's still by a 2-goal margin. Now, there's no doubt that now that they're going to be playing in the final against Pumas, and that I know some people have said that this is finally the year because, Pumas is not doing very well in the league right now. They're 13th in Liga MX, but we said the same thing when TFC played against a struggling Chivas team, and when LAFC were also playing against a struggling Tigres team. So this is why I'm going to take a caution optimist approach. The fact that, the Sounders need to bring their A game in this one. And if there's one thing that I've also saw from the last game when they play against the Quakes, where, that is kind of a game where let's just hope Brian Schmitzer will really get into the players and just know that there's nothing is taken for granted, because I think that game against the Quakes was really a good wake-up call that the Sounders can't just take a team that is probably considered not doing very well, and that they are of course the favorites coming into that one, and just kind of take it lightly. And I would also say that Quakes game that the Sounders have played probably maybe be the best case scenario for the Sounders to really get themselves being serious, because again, it's a great wake up call that you can't just overlook your opponent even if they're not doing well in the league. And I'm pretty sure that Pumas is going to give a good fight in this one. And I also know that yes, the second leg is going to be in Seattle, and it's going to be at Lumen's Field, and that anytime when an MLS does get to play at home against a Liga MX opponent, they're going to definitely have a stronger advantage compared to playing on the road. But like I said, for the Sounders, they need to of course get a result on the road against Pumas, and then hopefully in the second leg, even though if they do get the result, it's by no means over, because I've seen this before, and I've seen this story before, where remember when Montreal of course got a 1-1 result against Club America, and everybody thought that heading into the second leg at the Olympic Stadium, this was finally the moment for a MLS team to win the CONCACAF Champions League. And no, Montreal basically lost 4-1 against Club America in the second leg to lose the CCL Final. So yeah, even if the Sounders does get a result in the first leg, I am not celebrating at any point, and I'm pretty sure Brian Schmitzer is letting his player to know that the job is not done after just the first leg, and that they need to stay focused in the second leg. And I'm pretty sure that and the other thing I will also say about Pumas is that this is a team that is known to overcome incredible odds stack against them. I mean, they already showed it in this year's CCL run to the final, where they were able to overcome a 3-0 deficit that they suffered against the New England Revolution to win 3-0. And albeit, yes, that of course is when New England was playing on the road and they were playing at home. You simply can't take that as a way where I've seen this before, where MLS team overlook a weaker Liga MX team and they think they can finally make history, when in reality that there's a reason why an MLS team have never won the CONCACAF Champions League, even though there are a lot of people are suggesting that this league is definitely starting to catch up to Liga MX. I think at the end of the day, until if we do see an MLS team win CCL, I mean, there is still that argument of the fact that the league hasn't really completely catch up. I mean, it has made up the gap, but if to talk about both of these leagues are on even term, yeah, it is still not there. And this is despite the fact that MLS definitely took even a bigger step now with these recent results that they had against Liga MX team in the knockout stage in CCL, and also them winning the MLS All-Star game last year against Liga MX down in LA. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And also let me know in the comments below, is this finally the year that an MLS team is going to win CCL. Those 3 words, or I think, is it 3 or 4? Anyway, that phrase kind of is pretty much the most daunting phrase to kind of ask. But yeah, I kind of had to ask to see whether or not if this is finally the year that the curse finally end, where an MLS team is going to be playing in the Club World Cup after winning their for becoming the first MLS team to win this region's top competition, that is the CONCACAF Champions League. But let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.